What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for NFL playoffs. Wild Card Saturday.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for this week's NFL slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, let's take a look at this 3-game main slate on Saturday. So let's take a look at the quarterback position. I like Philip Rivers from the Indianapolis Colts playing the Buffalo Bills, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing quarterbacks. Philip Rivers has averaged 16.3 fantasy points per game on the season. He's going to be about 13% owned, projected at 15.8 fantasy points here in the wild card round of the playoffs, and he's $5,400 DraftKings salary and $1,400 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 51 points scored in this game, and they have the Colts trailing by 6.5. So you got a decent matchup here compared to the other quarterbacks on the slate, outside of Jared Goff, who I wouldn't trust here this week. So Philip Rivers, he's super low salary. It's going to open up your salary for the other positions, and there's a couple of cheap wide receivers that you can stack with him, and it should be a passing game script. So I like Philip Rivers here versus the Buffalo Bills. Okay, let's take a look at the running back position. I like Cam Akers from the LA Rams playing the Seattle Seahawks, who have the 13th worst defense overall, and they're middle of the pack defending opposing running backs. Cam Akers has averaged 8.1 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 11.2 rush attempts per game. But he's come on in the last few games of the season, and he got 21 rush attempts last game and 4 pass targets. He only scored 12 fantasy points, but he was a little bit hindered with an injury. He should be fully healthy and good to go this week. He's projected at 8.4 fantasy points here in the wild card round of the playoffs. I think that projection is a little bit low, considering he's going to get a ton of rush attempts and pass targets. He's going to be about 35% owned, and he's only $5,100 DraftKings salary and $1,000 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 42 points scored in this game, with the Rams trailing by 3.5. So you got a decent matchup compared to the other running backs on the slate. It's going to be a close, competitive game. So I like Cam Akers here versus the Seattle Seahawks.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all the tools for NFL. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, let's take a look at the wide receiver position. I like Chris Godwin from the Tampa Bay Bucks playing the Washington football team, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing wide receivers, but Chris Godwin has averaged 16.2 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 7 pass targets per game. He scored 33, 19, and 14 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 7, 9, and 5 pass targets. He's going to be about 27% owned, projected at 14.8 fantasy points here in the wild card round of the playoffs. He's $7,000 DraftKings salary and $800 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 44.5 points scored in this game, with the Tampa Bay Bucks favored by 8. So Mike Evans was limited in practice, but with or without a healthy Mike Evans, Chris Godwin is still a beast, getting tons of volume. He's been productive. He's got major upside. So I like Chris Godwin here versus the Washington football team. And another wide receiver that I like is T.Y. Hilton from the Indianapolis Colts playing the Buffalo Bills, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. And although they've been pretty good versus opposing wide receivers, T.Y. Hilton has averaged 11.2 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 6.2 pass targets per game. He scored 14, 9, and 11 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 7, 7, and 6 pass targets. So consistent passing volume. He's been productive. He's projected at 11.1 fantasy points here in this wild card round of the playoffs, and he's going to be about 37% owned. He's only $5,000 DraftKings salary and $1,100 more on FanDuel. So we know Vegas thinks there's going to be 51 points scored in this game, with the Colts trailing by 6.5. So it should be a passing game script. He should get a ton of targets in this one. So I like T.Y. Hilton here versus the Buffalo Bills. Okay, let's take a look at the tight end position. I like Logan Thomas from the Washington football team playing the Tampa Bay Bucks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. Actually, they've got a pretty good defense overall, and they give up the 11th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Logan Thomas has averaged 11.2 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 6.9 pass targets per game. He scored 13, 13, and 26 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 6, 12, and 15 pass targets. He's going to be about 31% owned, projected at 13.5 fantasy points here in the wild card round of the playoffs. He's $4,900 DraftKings salary and $1,500 more on FanDuel. So Vegas thinks there's going to be 44.5 points scored in this game, with the Washington football team trailing by 8. So you got a pretty good tight end matchup and a passing game script and a guy that's getting a ton of passing volume, and he's been productive. So I like Logan Thomas here versus the Tampa Bay Bucks.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smickety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NFL slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.